I figure why not get started and make another bishop and knight mate chess tutorial. So this is a simplified W method, and I'll show you the basic premise first of all. Whatever color your bishop is, in this case is a light square, if the king manages to get stuck in the corner, the only way to get him out, you can't do it with the bishop and the king alone. You have to check him out with the knight somehow and then drive him out. That part where you drive the king out, you have to do that by a tiny bit of calculating, not much. Once the king is out of the corner, for the starting position, I'll show you what you want to have. You want to drive him into one of these squares. And so you want to draw on the board in your head these two lines. So you draw the lines here. Now if the king is anywhere in these squares, you'll just have to drive him for a bit. Push him with your king mostly, not mostly with the pieces yet. But you want to get him out of here. Once he's out of that place, you drive him to the same square as the bishop. Once you have the knight, if you need to, out of the corner, you want to look at, once he's out of there, suppose he's here. The setup that you want to do is you want to put your bishop either on this square here or this square here. And that's to lock him in this section right here. He'll be locked in this triangle. So the bishop needs to be there. It guards that diagonal. The knight you want to place right here. The king will guard all the rest of the squares. So here are the squares that these two pieces are guarding against the king. So the king can't get out. Here are the squares that the king is guarding right here. The king cannot escape. Once the king moves in a little bit, you want to transfer your bishop to this diagonal right here. And notice that your knight is still guarding these two squares right here. Are still guarded by the knight, so even when the bishop is moved to this diagonal, you're still covering all these squares. Now the bishop can move anywhere here or here. And the ideal position you want is after the bishop and knight go from here and the king moves over, you want to transfer him over here. And the way that the bishop moves, it just moves up, moves around, doesn't get taken. But the way the knight moves is a W. That's why this is the W method. So he moves like that. Or he can move like this. Whoops. Or he can move like this. It's a W. That's why it's a W method. Once the king is in this tiny box, once he's in that box, when it's convenient, cut off that final diagonal with the bishop. And then depending upon what tempo you have, you're going to mate him with the bishop or with the knight. That's all there is to it. You're trying to place your bishop, if it's a light square bishop, on one of these squares. If the king is in this section, it's going to be one of these squares. If the king happens to be over on this side, then you would want to put your bishop on one of these squares. So depending upon where the opponent's king is, you want to either have him isolated here or here. Now if you have a dark square bishop, then it's exactly the same thing, only you want to drive him into the other corner. And the initial position here is you want to control this diagonal or this diagonal. In this case, if the king is in this corner, you want to control this diagonal, and your ideal position is right here. So these squares are all covered, and the king would have to be somewhere here to cover the rest of them. And then when it's appropriate, you can move the bishop up, and then you can make the W with the knight. There's no set time that you have to do these moves, so that's why I think it's a little bit simplified. You don't have to remember anything. All you have to remember is if you see you have a light square bishop and you see you have a king, the initial squares that you're going to be thinking about are these. And you have to wonder, am I going to cut them off to this section here? Or I'm going to cut them off to this section here. Now you have 50 moves, so you don't have to be that efficient. Let's load up a sample. So I'll put the king right here, play against the computer. All right, so he's had to do the wrong square, and I will probably have to kick him out with the knight. So I need to get the knight here, here. Let's get the knight going. All right, now he's kicked out of there. Now I can put this bishop either on this square or this square, and the knight's right here. So maybe put the bishop here and then move the knight here, because it only takes 2 moves to go from here to here. So let's get started. The bishop. Yeah, you got it. I forgot it. Stupid guy is trying to backtrack on me. So let's go here. And then I want to get to this square with the bishop. And he still can't escape. So I'm fine. Okay. Now we have the first formation. And let's push the king around. I'll make a tempo move with the bishop to make it a little bit easier to push him. Push him a little bit. I'm not being that efficient. We got 50 moves. I want to cover that square so he doesn't get out. And now we have transferred the bishop. Now this knight, the bishop is going to want to end up there. The knight wants to go there. So he's got 2 moves to get to the square. Ah! What are you doing? I'm making a video. I'm making a video. Eating the microphone. I forgot what I was doing. But yeah, the knight has to go there. So I have time to do it. And now I have the second formation. And now I have to go into the third formation. So make a waiting move. And then he's stuck in there. Drive him back a little bit. Now the knight wants to check here on this square, because the bishop always has to check the king in the corner. So I'll move the knight. Checkmate. All right, let's try it again. Make a new one. And this time, make a black bishop. All right, so black bishop means I want to drive him into one of these corners. And my key squares now are here, 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 and here for the bishop. So I want to drive him past one of these. Let's see where the King is trying to go, and he's making trouble for me. Let's see where I can drive him. I'll probably have to put him out of that corner. And I'll make a waiting move so I can drive him further this way. Now he's in this corner. So ideally I want my bishop here and my knight there. So I'm going to put my... Well, he might come back this way. So I'm going to try to get my knight here first. Sorry, my bishop should be here. My knight should be there. I wasted a move. I should have gone here and then there. All right. This way. Can't let him escape. And bishop here, knight there. So I got to go here. All right, so now I have the first formation. So now I got him boxed in here. And next step is to move the bishop here, knight here. Let's get the king involved. And let's make the W maneuver. Can't let him escape. Did I put the knight on the wrong square? Probably. Should be here. Alright, and now I gotta drive him out of this corner. And now I notice when he's here, he only has 2 squares to go to. And again, the knight has to go there, so the knight needs to check him. And we'll go here and then there. This time, the bishop checks first. Checkmate. That's it. It doesn't have to be any harder than this. You barely have to calculate. That's it. Simplified W method for a bishop and knight checkmate.